Clearly unhinged, he points the gun at Shino's mother, threatening to shoot her next. Shino bites the man's hand, grabbing the pistol. He wrestles her for it. She fires once, in the gut. Reaching again, a second, through his right shoulder. Making one last feeble attempt, the third bullet, center forehead. Looking down, screaming as blood pools, everything turns red. She's back in her room, dropping the fake gun. She kisses the great white and places a cloth over the gun, putting it back. Still unable to forget the man's face, wishing someone would come save her. Kirito tells Asuna it'll only take a few days. He'll transfer over to GGO, check it out, and transfer right back. He promised Kikuoka as a favor, which is why he's using his main account. He goes to the hospital, in the off chance death gun isn't a rumor, surprised to see the same nurse who took care of him while he was in SAO and rehab. Apparently, Kikuoka spoke with her as well. She tells him to strip, for the electrodes, of course. It's not like she hasn't seen the full works. Kazuto is confident that it'll only take 4 to 5 hours tops. Shino came to Tokyo thinking it would help her panic attacks, which occur whenever she sees or hears anything resembling a gun. Shinkawa introduced her to GGO. Now she uses it as a type of therapy, thinking that winning the BOB will cure her. In a dark room, staring at their screen with the 2 dead players crossed off, the third, Sinon, unmarked, their next target. Kirito logs on to GGO, garnering a lot of attention. His avatar is more feminine than he expected. Becoming lost immediately, he spots Sinon and asks for directions. Thinking Kirito is a girl, she decides to help. He decides to keep up the act long enough to get his bearings. He just needs to sign up for the BOB and get a weapon, though she thinks he's crazy for entering the tournament after logging on for the first time. Kirito only has 1,000 credits, which will barely get him anything, especially a live ammo gun for PvP. If he wants to make quick cash, there's a gun range with an automated gunslinger. Making it to the end wins you the whole pot, but as soon as you get close, the bullet lines, trajectory markers every player can see, except for the first shot of a sniper, become almost impossible to see. They watch someone attempt it, though they can't get past the quick draw line. Of course, he gets the jackpot in one go, dodging the bullet lines instead of the bullets. Now to find him a good weapon. Kirito sees that there are photon swords. Buying one, despite Sinon telling him they're pretty much useless. At least get a mid-range gun to get in close. She chooses an FN-57 for him. But at the firing range, he can't even hit the target. Leaving the shop, Sinon notices they have 10 minutes to register. They start running, when Kirito notices some 3-wheeled bikes. They're supposed to be extremely hard to control. He just laughs it off, making up an excuse. Just in time, signing up, it asks for Kirito's real-life info. Hesitating, he quickly forgoes entering anything when Sinon surprises him, almost seeing his avatar's displayed gender. Since the game uses credits exchangeable for real currency, it feels like a separate world. Sinon admits to feeling like a different person in GGO than IRL, though quickly changes the subject. When they go to change, he has no choice but to introduce himself formally, which earns him a slap for lying about being a girl. She keeps telling him not to follow her, but he has nowhere to go. She begrudgingly explains the rules. The arenas are randomly generated, and players start at least 500 meters apart. Whoever kills the other player teleports back to the waiting room for their next match. They're in different blocks, so after the prelims, if they both make it, they'll face off in the finals. She shows Kirito her player info after swearing to kill the stronger players. He better win, since now he knows the name of the person who's going to kill him. Spiegel shows up, glad she made it in time, though he only came to watch her matches. He notices Kirito, thinking he's a she. Sinon sets him straight, and Kirito thanks her for their date as the announcement for the prelims sounds. He better be in the finals, angering her further by acting as if it's another date. Spiegel isn't too happy either. In his first match, Kirito isn't prepared for an automatic rifle, getting pinned down until he remembers how the bullet lines work. Kirito masters a lifetime's worth of ninjutsu in mere moments, and detects the enemy player moving in the grass. Kirito charges, using his photon sword to deflect the bullets and pierces his opponent's chest before he can reload, winning the match. In the waiting room, Kirito runs into the player calling themselves Death Gun, feeling as if they've met somewhere before, but he can't quite place it. Death Gun asks if he's the real deal, not knowing what he means, asking again while pointing to his name, mentioning his sword skills. Then it hits Kirito. They must be an SAO survivor. But who? Catching a glimpse of their arm, he's completely rattled. It's the Laughing Coffin's emblem. He plays dumb, but Death Gun promises to kill him either way. Kirito has a panic attack, experiencing flashbacks of SAO. They weren't the only murderers. He and the other guilds led a raid on their secret base. It was a bloodbath. In the end, he killed 2 of their members. Kirito, shaking, starts to spiral, realizing that player has the same voice as Death Gun. Sinon tries talking to him. He just grabs her hand, a vacant look in his eyes. Before she can do anything, he teleports to his next match, standing for a moment, solemnly, before losing it and going all out. Sinon can't help but recognize the same thing in herself, becoming flustered while Spiegel watches intently. Sinon lets him get in her head, missing her first shot, but ultimately winning the match. It's their turn to face each other, but he reminds her of herself after seeing the look on his face, distracting her. Spawning on a bridge, Kirito slowly walks towards her. She can't hit him, running up to him, accusing him of not taking it seriously. Is it just a game to him? He promises to give her the fight she wants. They'll duel. He'll throw a bullet in the air, at 10 meters apart. When it hits the ground, it's on. She can't miss at this range. What is he thinking? She agrees, and when the bullet hits the ground, she fires. He cuts the round in half, holding his blade to her neck. She can't believe it. How did he predict where she was aiming? By following her eye through the scope? But that's not a skill. It shouldn't be possible. What is this crazy VR ninjutsu nonsense? Sinon wants to know how to obtain such strength. That's why she's here. But he tells her it's not strength. If she knew the person at the other end would die if she pulled the trigger, could she go through with it? Does he know about her past? No. He avoids eye contact, admitting that he couldn't. Not again. Not after killing 3 people. He doesn't even know their names. She forfeits the match, promising to win in the finals, as Death Gun watches the screen ominously. Sugu points out Kazuto's position on the BOB tournament list. There aren't many players calling themselves Kirito. That and she may have called Asuna. Worried about him, she says he had the same look on his face last night as he did after the SAO incident, telling her it's fine. He'll transfer back after the tournament. There's only 1 day left. Shino, irate, unable to calm down, rants about Kirito to Kyoji. He infuriates her. Who does he think he is? Kyoji tries calming her down. She's not acting like herself. She's never talked about someone this much. She'll destroy him in the finals, taking aim with her index finger, making a finger gun without flinching in her fit of rage. Grabbing her hand, he tries to express his feelings. Going in for a hug, she pushes him away. She isn't ready yet, and asks if he can wait for her. Kirito has nightmares about murdering those players, unable to remember their faces. At the hospital, he asks Aki about remembering those who died under her care. What kind of person does it make him, forgetting the names and faces of the players he killed in SAO? Since it affects him that much, she says it means he cares. He should remember why he did it and the people he saved along the way. In ALO, Asuna spaces out. Reminded of the tournament, she goes to watch it with their friends. Back in GGO, Spiegel tries to comfort Sinon, but she refuses his touch again, saying she needs to focus. Kirito remembers Death Gun's threat. He needs to figure out his avatar's name to thwart his plans. Sinon reluctantly agrees to share info, explaining how the Battle Royale works. Each player starts 1 kilometer away in a multi-terrain arena, with a satellite revealing the players' locations every 15 minutes. The last one standing wins. She tries leaving, but he catches her, wanting to discuss the real reason why he wanted to talk. How many players does she not recognize? A strange question, but easy enough. Jushi X, Pale Rider, and Sturban. Wondering if one of them is Deathgun, Sinon gets mad, demanding to know why. Kirito confesses that one of them might be someone who he fought to the death in another game. She almost opens up, but decides against it, making him promise to stay alive until the end for their duel. Sinon sees Dine running from Pale Rider on her radar. Deciding to take advantage, she sets up a vantage point as they make their final stand. Pale Rider is extremely dexterous, able to quickly close the distance, killing Dine at close range, executing him. Suddenly, Pale Rider goes down, but there isn't a player around for miles, except for Kirito sneaking up on her. He avoided detection while underwater. There wasn't a gunshot, but it looks like there's a paralyzing dart in his shoulder. Deathgun appears out of nowhere, slowly walking towards Pale Rider, pulling out a pistol, making a cross with his hand as if in prayer. Kirito frantically tells Sinon to shoot. They can't let him use that gun. In ALO, Kirito's friends watch the bridge battle, becoming nervous when Deathgun appears. Sinon takes aim, but Deathgun dodges, shooting Pale Rider, who disconnects. Deathgun announces himself. Klein drops his drink, recognizing the phrase, "It's showtime," as one of the members of Laughing Coffin's catchphrase. Kirito tells Sinon to stay away from Deathgun. Players have been dying IRL after one shot from his handgun. Refusing to let him go alone, they team up for now. A player shows up, and Kirito blocks his shots while Sinon takes aim, sniping him. They figure Deathgun is using the river to avoid detection. After seeing the events on screen and Klein's comments, Asuna logs out to speak with Kikuoka to find out why he really hired Kirito. Making it to the city, they only see Jushi X on the scan. Thinking it's him and seeing the barrel of Deathgun's rifle, Kirito asks her to watch his back while getting in close. But as soon as he's gone, Sinon becomes paralyzed, a dart in her left shoulder. Deathgun approaches, calling Kirito out. He wants to know if it's really the same swordsman from that day, wanting to see the fury and rage behind his blade. If killing his friend is what it takes, then so be it. Sinon notices the gun he's using, the Type 54 Black Star, the same gun she killed the robber with as a child. It's not the dart that's paralyzing her anymore. Seeing the man's face reflected back at her in Deathgun's empty, glowing red eyes. A shot rings out. It's Kirito throwing a smoke bomb. Picking up Sinon, he looks for an escape route. Spotting some vehicles, they get on a similar bike from before. Sinon notes the horse is faster but harder to handle. Kirito tells her to destroy it while they drive away. She can't pull the trigger. Why now, when she needs it the most? Deathgun mounts the horse and makes chase. He's gaining on them. Kirito yells, "Shoot him!" Making the shot doesn't matter. They need a distraction. But she can't pull the trigger. It's as if her body won't let her, losing the will to fight. If she won't, then he will. No, only Sinon can use Hecate. It's a part of her. They'll do it together then. She takes aim while he helps pull the trigger. Too shaky. Can't get him in her scope. Kirito counts down. She'll have her chance in a moment. The bike goes over a ramp, airborne. She wonders how he's so calm in a moment like this, realizing his strength comes from going all out when he fights. No holds barred, no matter what. They pull the trigger together. It's a miss. Close enough though. The bullet enters a wrecked car, igniting the gas tank, watching it explode while Deathgun is enveloped in flames. They escape into the desert, though too exposed. Sinon notices a cave nearby. They can avoid the next satellite scan there. Sinon confirms that there's a cloaking skill. That's how he appears out of nowhere. But the sand makes it almost impossible to avoid detection. They'll see footprints, or at least hear his steps. Wondering whether Deathgun made it out alive, Kirito is certain he did, having seen him jump off the horse at the last second. But how did he know it wasn't Jushi X and get to her so fast? Jushi X was a woman, and he could see Sinon lying on the ground, so he picked up her gear and started shooting and throwing grenades. He tries consoling her, deciding to go after Deathgun alone. Isn't he scared? Of course he is. Who isn't afraid to die? But he can't just sit back waiting for the tournament to end, putting other players at risk. Sinon's no good at close quarters though. She doesn't care if she dies. She's weaker than she was back then. She'd rather be dead. He refuses to let her die alone. There's no such thing. It burns a hole in the memories of those you know. No one can die alone. A piece of everyone you know dies with you. If that's the case, then he can protect her for the rest of her life. He doesn't understand. Is he going to hold blood-soaked hands? Crying and beating on his chest, yelling she hates him. She reveals what she did as a child. When Deathgun was chasing them, she wasn't Sinon. She was that scared little kid. He understands all too well. He's a survivor of SAO, and so is Deathgun. He managed to block it out until he came face to face with him before the tournament. How did he get over it? He admits that he still has nightmares. Seeing their faces, hearing their last words, the only thing you can do is accept it. But right now, there's someone trying to murder them. How does he pull it off, though? You can't stop someone's heart by shooting them in-game. Wait a second. Deathgun switched to his rifle when shooting Kirito. So there are rules, or a system he follows. If he saw the players input their real data while signing up for the tournament, he would know where they live. But he can't be in two places at once. There's an accomplice in the real world. Putting on an act in front of an audience gives him the opportunity to check the time and coordinate with his partner. The victims lived alone, with shoddy locks. Being unconscious, they wouldn't even know. Sinon begins to panic. Her heart rate increases rapidly. She needs to calm down or she'll automatically log out, waking up to someone waiting to kill her. Meanwhile, in ALO, Kikuoka shows up. They demand to know what's happening. Before explaining, Yui lays out all the information about the GGO incidents. It's too late to do anything now. All they can do is watch. Asuna won't accept that, getting Kazuto's location out of him. Kirito calms Sinon down. If there really is someone in her apartment, they need to come up with a plan. They can't kill her if she avoids getting shot. So he'll act as bait. She will lie in wait. They notice the live stream camera above, hoping nobody hears them. The scan shows 24 players dead, showing 2 players on the map. Accounting for the deaths he's aware of, there's 1 missing. There might be more than one person IRL carrying out the killings. Sinon plans to take out Yamakaze, so Deathgun can't. But he's too fast. She has to wait until he slows down to shoot. Kirito uses his crazy ninjutsu nonsense from the first round, realizing that focusing on their intent to kill gives him superpowers, apparently. A shot rings out. He barely dodges Deathgun's bullet. Yamakaze notices, taking cover. Perfect. Sinon has a stationary target, taking him out. Now that they know the other's location, Deathgun and Sinon have each other in their sights, firing simultaneously. The bullets rip through both of their scopes. It's up to Kirito now. Making a mad dash towards Deathgun, who unsheathes a blade from the stock of his ruined rifle, stabbing Kirito in the shoulder. Asuna arrives at the hospital. Kazuto's covered in sweat, heart rate spiking. Noticing the player's handle, Sturban, the nurse explains it's a German term used when patients die. Kirito confronts Deathgun, explaining his theory on the killings. But there's something he's missing. If he knew his SAO handle, Deathgun laughs. He'll never remember. Kirito told him not to bother telling him, thinking they'd never meet again. In the hospital, Kazuto isn't looking too hot. Well, actually, he's way too hot. He's burning up. There's nothing they can do. Asuna only hopes he feels her hand on his. Kirito remembers. He's blocking it out. There was a briefing before they attacked Laughing Coffin. Red eyes. His SAO handle, Red-Eyed Saza. Deathgun is taken aback. Enough of a distraction for Sinon to get a bullet line trained on him. No scope, a phantom bullet. Deathgun evades, dodging backwards. He cloaks himself. Kirito can't quite reach him, though he still has a sidearm. Drawing his pistol, firing a few rounds to stop him from cloaking, Kirito severs him in half at the waist with his photon sword, winning a duel of the fates. But he warns Kirito that it's not over yet. Then Sinon catches up, figuring out how they should end the tournament, tossing a live grenade to Kirito and hugging him while he juggles it. The first BOB ended with 2 winners in a similar fashion. Shino wakes up to an empty apartment. relief washing over her. Someone rings her doorbell. She freezes until she hears Kyoji's voice. Letting him in, he begins acting strange, saying that she promised she'd be his if he waited. She pushes him off. He takes out a syringe, revealing himself to be Death Gun's partner. He's lost it, overcome by his obsession with Shino. Retreating into her own mind, wishing it was over. But after everything in GGO, she finds the strength to fight back. But he grabs her and Kazuto busts through the door, wrestling him off her. Kyoji gets on top of him, pulling out the syringe. Shino grabs a radio, bashing Kyoji on the back of the head, knocking him out. She notices Kazuto still has an electrode from the hospital on his chest, conveniently where the syringe hit. He's fine. Shino stands up to her bullies for the first time, finally able to hold her own in the presence of a gun. She takes it, schooling her on how to use it, though it's only a BB gun. Kazuto and Shino meet with Kikuoka at a cafe. Apparently, Kyoji's older brother was Zexi from Laughing Coffin. He confessed everything. How they used their father's position at the hospital to gain access to the drugs, and meticulously researched their victims, acting with a second ex-member of Laughing Coffin. It seems like all three left the real world behind, unable to distinguish it from their virtual selves. The third member is still at large, and Laughing Coffin isn't done with Kirito. They give Kikuoka a note, telling Kirito to wait until it's showtime. Kazuto brings Shino to A-Gil's bar, where she meets Asuna and Liz from SAO. She becomes uncomfortable when he admits telling them about what she did as a kid, but he pleads with her to stay. There's someone she needs to meet. A mother and daughter walk through the back door and sit down. In tears, the mother tells Shino she was working at the post office the day of the robbery. She was pregnant with her daughter at the time. She apologizes for not thanking her sooner. If she hadn't done something to stop the robber, her daughter wouldn't be there to thank her in person. The little girl hands her a hand-drawn picture, thanking her for saving them. Shino breaks down, and Kazuto tells her she has to forgive herself. There was more than one person that day. She can't forget the life she took, but at least she can remember those she saved. Thank you for